So friends, in this video, we will talk about an update regarding Afghanistan's Bagram Airbase. Recently, the President of the United States, Donald Trump, demanded that control of the Bagram military airbase should be handed over to America. Yes, Trump wants the Taliban government in Afghanistan to give control of the Bagram airbase to the United States. Trump has even threatened the Taliban, saying that if this does not happen, very bad things will occur. The Taliban will have to pay a very heavy price. However, the Taliban has not taken these threats seriously. The Taliban has not bowed down before the US. It has clearly stated that it will not compromise its sovereignty under any circumstances. It will not give even an inch of its land to any foreign power, whether it is China or the United States. The Taliban will defend its territorial integrity at all costs. All of this is happening because of Bagram's strategic location. Throughout its history, the Bagram airbase has witnessed a lot, whether it was Soviet ambitions, America's war on terror, or the Taliban's return to power in Afghanistan. Bagram airbase has seen it all. If we talk about the background, the Soviet Union built the Bagram airbase in 1950s. The Soviet Union wanted to increase its influence in Afghanistan and strengthen its foothold in the region. Later, in the 1970s, Bagram airbase also witnessed the Soviet military intervention. Bagram was the epicenter of Soviet air operations. To carry out airstrikes against Mujahideen fighters in Afghanistan, the Soviet Union used Bagram itself. In the fight against the America-supported anti-communist Mujahideen fighters, Bagram proved to be very helpful for the Soviet Union. However, in Afghanistan, which is known as the graveyard of empires, the Soviet Union could not achieve victory and in 1989, Soviet had to withdraw its troops from Afghanistan. Then, fast forward to 2001, the 9/11 attacks took place in the United States. America launched the war on terror and invaded Afghanistan. The objective was to destroy Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda had the support of the Taliban. America's invasion of Afghanistan lasted for 20 years, from 2001 to 2021. Even during this period, Bagram Airbase was the center of America's military operations. Bagram was the largest and the most important airbase in Afghanistan. It acted as the nerve center of the US-led NATO missions. During the invasion of Afghanistan, Bagram was America's command hub. This base was very important for the United States. That is why, over time, America expanded it significantly. A second runway was built. Its facilities were upgraded. It was developed in several phases. It was developed in such a way that living there would become easier for soldiers and military operations could be conducted easily. Living in Afghanistan's rugged terrain is not easy, so Bagram Airbase had to be developed to make it self-sufficient. Soldiers could live here comfortably. American companies opened shops, food outlets, and utility stores here. This made it easier for the soldiers stationed there to gather their daily needs. Even inside the war zone, America had set up its own marketplace. And since it was a war zone, a hospital was also built here. Equipped with all modern facilities, this hospital was used to treat the wounded. So Bagram was no longer just a military base, it had become much more than that. It functioned like a self-sufficient small military city. I mean, there were shops, a gym, a hospital, a movie theater, everything. America had also built detention facilities here, where prisoners were kept. Many Taliban fighters were taken captive. Over time, many videos, reports, and photos emerged that confirmed the existence of these prisons. When the Taliban captured power in 2021, all these prisoners were released. In 2021, America's presence inside Afghanistan ended dramatically. After a long war that lasted 20 years, the US withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021. The US pulled out in great haste. It was quite ironic. After a 20-year-long war, the US ended up replacing the Taliban with the Taliban itself and fled. This created a power vacuum in Afghanistan. Then the Taliban removed the Afghan government and captured power. Now, under Trump, America wants to regain control over Bagram once again. As the United States does not want its adversaries such as Iran, China, and Russia to benefit from its exit from Afghanistan or take advantage of the situation. Iran, China, and Russia have long opposed America's presence in Afghanistan, and even now, They are strongly objecting to the idea that the US should regain control there. Even Pakistan, which is currently a temporary ally of the United States, is against the idea of America regaining control over Bagram. Thus, from being built by the Soviets to witnessing the Soviet invasion to seeing America's war on terror and then coming under Taliban control, Bagram has been a witness to all these rises and falls in Afghanistan. At present, Afghanistan is under Taliban rule. The Taliban fighters have understood that politics is more beneficial than warfare. Therefore, the Taliban is operating like a government in Afghanistan, running its own administration. It is defending its territorial integrity against America's demands and reminding the US about the 2020 Doha deal, also known as the US-Taliban peace deal. This was an agreement signed in 2020 in Qatar during Trump's first term. It aimed to end the longest war in America's history. Under this agreement, the United States stated that it would withdraw its and NATO's troops from Afghanistan. In return, the Taliban had to sever its ties with terrorist groups like Al-Qaeda and promise that Afghan soil would never again be used for terrorism against America and its allies. The Taliban also agreed to participate in peace talks as part of an effort to reach a political settlement. On paper, all of this was part of the agreement. However, as soon as the US withdrew from Afghanistan in 2021, the Taliban toppled the Afghan government and took control itself. That is why the Doha Agreement is also criticized for undermining the Afghan government and legitimizing Taliban rule. Because the United States made the deal directly with the Taliban, the Afghan government was not even included in the signing process. Thus, the Taliban was internationally legitimized. And now, the Taliban is referring to this very deal with the US, saying that there is no clause in the agreement that gives the US the right to regain control of Bagram. So now, when Trump is demanding Bagram, the Taliban is saying, "Look, you signed the deal and then left, so now you have no right to return." The Taliban has rejected any kind of foreign military presence on its soil. For the United States, Bagram is extremely important for several strategic and geopolitical reasons. Look at Bagram's strategic location. It is only 65 km away from Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. Whoever controls the Bagram airbase will have a significant advantage. If a quick military response is needed in and around Kabul, Bagram would be crucial. It is very important for power projection in the region. That is why the US wants it. Trump's interest in Bagram is further heightened because, according to him, it is near China's nuclear weapons facilities in Xinjiang. For the US, Bagram Airbase is strategically important to counter China. China is aware of this. That is why, after the US withdrawal in 2021, China focused on increasing its influence in Afghanistan. China's role in Afghanistan has grown. It has developed economic and diplomatic ties with the Taliban. However, like India, China has not formally recognized the Taliban. Beijing has also appointed a new ambassador for Kabul. China is making every possible effort to deepen its engagement with the Taliban. China is also eyeing Afghanistan's resources. Due to Beijing's expanding presence in Afghanistan, the United States is nervous. The United States is eager to regain control of Bagram in order to return to the region and reassert its influence in Afghanistan and Central Asia. Adding another layer to this is Russia. Russia also wants to increase its influence in Afghanistan. Russia is the first country in the world to officially recognize the Taliban regime. So, to counter both China and Russia, the US needs Bagram. The current closeness between the US and Pakistan is not coincidental. The sudden importance being given to Pakistan by the United States. You see, all these new deals in areas like cryptocurrency is not at all coincidental. It is deliberate. Because of its geographical position, Pakistan has always been America's logistical bridge to Afghanistan. This time as well, the US will use Pakistan to achieve its interests. The Taliban government in Afghanistan is aware of this. That is why the Taliban has already warned Pakistan that if it supports America against Afghanistan in any way, whether logistically, diplomatically, or militarily, the Taliban will consider Pakistan as an enemy state. This is a very strong statement. The Taliban is also increasing its closeness with India. India is Afghanistan's largest regional donor. To counter Pakistan, India is also increasing cooperation with the Taliban. The Taliban's government is struggling economically. It depends on foreign investment and funds, especially since America has frozen billions of dollars of Afghanistan's assets. Therefore, the Taliban government is also interested in dialogue with America. The Taliban has expressed their desire that it wants to engage with the American administration. It wants to engage with America without compromising Afghanistan's territorial sovereignty. In other words, the Taliban's stance is that it is willing to talk but not to surrender. If America wants to negotiate with the Taliban over trade, aid, or diplomatic ties, that is fine. But there will be no negotiations over Bagram. If Trump remains firm on the demand for Bagram, then this could become a major flashpoint between Afghanistan and America. Regaining control of Bagram will prove quite challenging for America. The Taliban has flatly rejected Trump's demand. It has said that it fought against foreign occupation for 2 decades, and if necessary, it will fight for 2 more decades. The Taliban tells its people that it has defeated the world's only superpower. It drove the US military out of Afghanistan. So if the US military presence returns to Afghanistan, the Taliban's narrative will collapse. That would not be politically good for the Taliban. The Taliban is now thinking like a government. Then Iran, the biggest rival of the US, and Israel also would not want Western military presence to return to Afghanistan. Iran has also tried to improve its relations with the Taliban. So Iran would definitely want to ensure that the US does not get another launching pad in Afghanistan near its borders. The US presence in Afghanistan is a security concern for Iran. Russia and China also would not want the US to establish a military foothold inside Afghanistan. So the US would face fierce resistance from its adversaries. If Trump remains stubborn, takes a hard-line stance, tries to take Bagram using a kinetic approach, and launches a military operation to seize Bagram forcefully, then Afghanistan will turn into a battlefield once again. The axis of upheaval will be involved. China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea, these 4 countries are referred to as the axis of upheaval. They are also called Kring countries. They collaborate with each other to counter Western influence. They will make every possible effort to counter US moves in Afghanistan. One mistake by America and Afghanistan will descend into chaos once again. The old conflict will be revived and Afghanistan will once again become politically unavailable for the US for some time. Before doing anything in Afghanistan, the US must consider all these geopolitical consequences. Can America afford to get involved in a new confrontation at this time? If this is part of Trump's negotiation tactic, then it is fine. If Trump is talking about taking Bagram under a pressure tactic to secure a favorable deal with the Taliban, that is fine. But if Trump is serious about regaining control of Bagram, then instability will return to the region.